Hi, kindly see the video on research critic of a quantitative study before seeing this video, as we discussed in that video regarding the reason for critiquing a research study, its purposes, principles and processes. Here in this video, we will be talking about critiquing of a qualitative study. Already we have seen in quantitative study critique the components. They are writing style and logical consistency, author credentials, research title, abstract, research purpose, ROL, theoretical framework, objective research hypothesis, variables, methodology, ethical consideration, sampling method, data collection, data analysis, discussion and conclusion, references. I think all of you remember these points. However, I need to again make you understand the criteria to critique a quantitative study will be different from that of a qualitative study or mixed method study or systematic review. That is, even though the headings on which we discuss will be the same, the criteria or the questions we will be asking will be different. That means we cannot critique all the studies with the same mindset. Certain things or certain aspects we need to keep in mind whenever we are doing a qualitative research is, in qualitative research there is no hypothesis and theoretical framework. Instead of variables, we will use the term key phenomenon. Another aspect in critique we will add is the critique of enhancement of trustworthiness and theoretical integration. Moving on to qualitative research evaluation. Again, I would like to tell you one more thing. A researcher or a student must learn about how the study will be critiqued, because the quality of the thesis they write or report they write will be good if they follow the criteria and check for themselves if they have fulfilled those criteria. Moving on to the qualitative research evaluation or critique. Here we will be seeing the criteria or questions we will be asking if the study is qualitative. I have already told you, as a critic you need to answer yes or no to each question in the criteria. And at the end, if more number of yes is there, that means your study's quality is good. But here I would also like to point one more thing. Not all yes are equal. Some elements are more important in drawing conclusions about the rigor of your study. For example, it is okay if review of literature is not adequately written. However, the questions about methodologic decisions and analysis are more important in evaluating the quality of a study. Critiquing the title. Is the title a good one, suggesting key phenomenon and the group or community under study? Critiquing abstract. Does the abstract clearly and concisely summarize the main features of the report? Critiquing the introduction part of the report. Critiquing problem statement. Is the phenomenon of interest clearly identified? Did the problem statement build an argument for the new study? Has the research made explicit the purpose of conducting the research? Was the problem significant for nursing? Has the researcher identified why the phenomenon requires a qualitative format? Whether qualitative approach is appropriate one to be used? Next, critiquing research question. Were research questions stated? If not, was their absence justified? Critiquing review of literature. Did the report adequately summarize the existing body of knowledge related to the problem or phenomenon of interest? Did the ROL provide a strong basis for a new study? Moving on to critiquing conceptual underpinnings. Were key concepts defined conceptually? Critiquing methodology. Critiquing the ethical issues. Were appropriate procedures used to safeguard the study participants in the study? Was the study subject to review by authority, whether ethical clearance was taken or not? Was the study designed to minimize risk and maximize the benefit to participants? Critiquing research design and tradition. Is the method used to collect data compatible with the purpose of the research? Was an adequate amount of time spent with the study participants? Was there an adequate number of contacts with the study participants? This is very important. If a particular approach is used to guide the inquiry, does the researcher complete the study according to the processes already described? Did the design unfold during data collection? Critiquing sample and setting. Was the group or population of interest adequately described? Were the setting and sample described in sufficient detail? Was the approach used to recruit participants or gain access to the site appropriate? Was the best method of sampling used to enhance information richness and address the needs of the study? Was the sample size adequate? Was saturation achieved? Are the informants who were chosen appropriate for research? Moving on to critiquing the data collection. Were the methods of gathering data appropriate? Were data gathered through two or more methods to achieve triangulation? Did the researcher ask the right questions or make the right observations, and were they recorded properly? Was a sufficient amount of data gathered? Were the data of sufficient depth and richness? Critiquing procedures. Where data collection, whether it be interview, observation, field notes, and recording procedures adequately described, and do they appear appropriate? Were data collected in a manner that minimized bias? Were the staff who collected data appropriately trained? Critiquing the trustworthiness. Did the researchers use effective strategies to enhance the trustworthiness of the study? Was there a good description of those strategies? You know that the different methods of trustworthiness are engagement with participants, detailed observation, multiple interviews, making a reflexive journal, etc. So whether all these things were done and described, were the methods used to enhance trustworthiness adequate? Did the researcher document research procedures and decision processes sufficiently? Was there evidence of research reflexivity? Was there thick description of the contest, participants and findings? This thick description is very important in a qualitative study? Was it at sufficient level to support transferability? Moving on to critiquing the results. Critiquing the data analysis. Were the data management and analysis methods adequately described? Did the analysis yield an appropriate product? Example, a theory, a thematic pattern, etc. Has the researcher remained true to the data? Does the reader understand the procedures used to analyze the data? Also, a very important point, the reader, when reading the research report, has to understand the procedures and the data analysis pattern very clearly. Does the researcher address the credibility, auditability, and fittingness of the data? Next slide we will be seeing about how the researcher is addressing the credibility, auditability and fittingness. So what are the questions to ask for each thing? For credibility, do the participants recognize the experience as their own? Auditability, can the reader follow the researcher's thinking? Does the researcher document the research process? Fittingness, can the findings be applicable outside the study situation? Are the results meaningful to individuals not involved in the research? Is the strategy used for analysis compatible with the purpose of the study? So again I am enforcing you the credibility, the auditability and the fittingness of the result we need to check thoroughly. Critiquing the findings. Were the findings effectively summarized with good use of supporting arguments and short extracts? Did the themes adequately capture the meaning of the data? Did the analysis yield an insightful, authentic, and meaningful picture of the phenomena under investigation? Critiquing theoretical integration. Where the themes or patterns logically connected to form a convincing and integrated whole? Where figures, maps or models used effectively to summarize conceptualizations? Critiquing the discussion. Critiquing interpretation of findings. Were the findings interpreted within an appropriate social or cultural context? Were major findings interpreted and discussed within the context of prior studies? Were the interpretations consistent with the study's limitations? Is the reader able to grasp the essence of the experience from the report of the findings? Are the researcher's conceptualization true to the data? Next, critiquing implications. Did the researcher discuss the implications of the study for clinical practice or future research? Critiquing presentation. Was the report well written, organized, and sufficiently detailed for critical analysis? Was the description of the methods, findings, and interpretations sufficiently rich and vivid, showing worth and relevance of the study? Is it formal, impersonal fashion and use a passive voice? Critiquing researcher credibility. Do the researchers' clinical, methodologic qualifications and experience enhance confidence in the findings and their interpretation? critiquing the summary of study. Do the study findings appear to be trustworthy? Has the researcher made explicit the significance of the study to nursing? Do the conclusions, implications, and recommendations give the reader a context in which to use the findings? Do the conclusions reflect the study findings? Does the researcher offer recommendations for future study? A reflective and thorough critique of research report play a role in advancing nursing knowledge. Again, I would like to state that all the yes answers to the criteria are not equal. Some elements are more important. In qualitative study, the methodology and trustworthiness needs more emphasis. Thank you so much. Please do subscribe to this channel to get more advanced knowledge in the nursing field. Thank you.